Good afternoon, and welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to our Direwolf 20 1.10 modded Minecraft Let's Play series. So, as I had mentioned before, I want to start working with deep resonance because there's actually a lot of power to be had from that, and it's a lot of fun to set up. Now, I will say that we won't get our setup entirely up and going this episode because there's a lot involved with it, and when I set this up, I want to go ahead and set it up in a way that is going to be effective, very, very effective as far as power generation goes, and producing, good crystals that have a power and efficiency that we want, and whatnot. So the first step with deep resonance is going to be melting down our resonating ore and creating a liquid that has a good purity, and purity is going to be based on how much lava is in the tank. We'll get into that a bit more, but for example, these tanks right here, these ones from deep resonance, we're gonna have to make some resonating plate, which this stuff is you get 8 of it for smelting one of these resonating ores, so it's not it's not all that expensive. Let me get some of this smelted. We'll say we'll start with 16 of them. I think that'll be plenty. I'm actually going to go ahead and set up a recipe here for our smelter so that it knows how to make those resonating plates, so that if we need them, it's it's easy to craft up some more of them. And I'm going to go ahead and throw these in there for now. So these tanks from Deep Resonance, I would suggest you go ahead and make a few of these. I'm going to go ahead and make like 10, 16. 10, 16 of them. And then we're also going to want a smelter from Deep Resonance. This does require a Deep Resonance machine frame. It's not very expensive. And then we're going to need some nether bricks. And that gets our smelter. And then let's go ahead and get some more of this resonating ore. And I'm also going to want a couple things to set this up to automate it, because, I don't want to manually have to do this. Oh, and by the way, my machines have started getting hose again. I have no clue what brought that on, but it started back up. So before I didn't have that area chunk loaded, so maybe that's what it is. I ended up chunk loading it, and then when I logged back in, it was all working as intended. So I have no exact clue why that is. But anyways, so I went ahead and made up a couple things here: mechanical user, a liquid monitor, and so on. But let's go ahead and set this up, and I'll show you how this works. So basically, if you have a tank, you'll want the tank on the bottom, so we're just going to stick it like right here for right now, for demonstration purposes. And then you put your smelter here, and you're going to have another tank above this. And the way this works, you need, for ideal amounts, you need this tank below the smelter to have 40 to 60% lava in it. It needs to be filled up with 40 to 60%. And it's going to use a little bit of lava, each time that it does an operation. So let's throw some lava in this. And we'll put it right at 50%. That's good enough. And so if we were to throw some resonating ore in here, you'll notice that it starts running, and it says it's running through this operation here. And it is going to use up a little bit of RF. It's not a whole lot for this. And whenever it finishes, you'll notice that we have 200 millibuckets of liquid crystal. And you'll say that it's 100% quality, 10% purity, strength, and efficiency. Now, if you had more lava or less lava in this, what would happen would be that this quality wouldn't quite be at 100%. It may be 80%, or it may be as low as like 10% or something. So you do need to monitor, when you set this up, you do need to monitor the amount of lava that is in this tank, and have it adjust it as it needs more lava. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna set this up actually probably right over here. So let me move this stuff. Yeah, we'll put it right here. And so what I want to do in order to monitor this liquid is I want to use a liquid monitor from RF Tools. And the way this works, we set it up, say like right here. We can select this tank that's right next to it, and we can adjust a alarm signal, basically. Let me grab some redstone so I can show you. So like right now, it's not emitting any any power at all. But if we were to say, if it's more than 0%, emit a signal, and you'll notice it has a power of 15. It's going to emit a power of 15 regardless of what, what the settings are or the difference between them. So what we want to do is let's go ahead and set it and say if it's less than, actually we'll say less than 48%. Emit a signal then. And so like right now, it's not emitting a signal. However, if I was to pull a bucket of lava out of here, you'll notice that it jumps up and activates. That's because the signal, or the lava, of course, went below 48%. So what we're going to do is we are going to set up a mechanical user. Now, you could just use conduits. And if you want to use conduits, by the way, what you can do is you can just right-click and say, like, you accept or you provide lava. And if you want to get lava into it, of course, you tell it to accept lava or accept liquid. But personally, I like using the mechanical user because if you use a conduit, sometimes if you get a little bit of like TPS lag or something like that, it doesn't have to be a lot. But if it does lag for just a split second, that conduit may pump too much lava into this and cause it to mess up. Now, and of course, I just like having this one liquid monitor here set to monitor the amount of liquid that's in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it emit a signal when it's less than 48%. And then what we're going to do is let's put an item conduit here. And we're going to tell this, you're going to insert on green and you're going to extract on brown, always active, but you're going to have a filter on brown with an empty bucket here. And then the next thing that I'm going to need is I'm going to need a fluid tank from Ender.io. And we'll go set this up right here. And of course the fluid tank, when it's provided with a bucket or something that can hold liquid, and it's provided with a liquid, it can fill those buckets or those bottles or whatever with that liquid. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it that it can insert on brown, which of course our mechanical user is pulling out on brown the empty buckets. And we're going to say that you can extract with a signal. And so then what we're going to do is, for right now, let's just set up our ender tank. I think we'll put our ender tank like right here. This is just because I want a buffer. This isn't going to be permanent, because eventually this building's going to have liquid storage and all that good stuff. But as of right now, it's kind of something that we're working on at the moment. So this is just going to fill up with lava. Just because I have that lava going elsewhere and I don't want this to empty out and me not notice the buffer in time, or notice that it ran out in time. So I do like to have a little bit of a buffer there. So what we'll do is we'll tell this drum to extract into this fluid tank. That's going to start filling it up. And then what we'll do is we'll throw a bucket in here. So it's going to fill that bucket up with lava. Now, if we throw our resonating ore into here. Oh, wait. I forgot something. Okay, well, I did end up dying. But anyways, I forgot to adjust the mechanical user. We're going to tell it to activate block with item. And then let's go ahead and remove this. So this is going to start filling up. And you'll notice at 8,200 it stops filling that up. That's because 8,200 is just over 50%. So, it falls into our liquid monitor, below 48%. So what it's doing is it's taking this resonating ore and it's breaking it down for us. Now this is going to need power. So we'll go ahead and just set this up right here. Oops, wrong block. Set this up right here. That's going to fill it up with power. I'll get power ran over here later on. But what this is producing, this is producing our liquid crystal. The quality dropped, I guess, when I had that issue with the lava and everything, and yeah, it dropped. But it'll build the quality back up little by little, because basically it's an average of the quality. So if we give it a little while, that quality is going to hit 100%. So it's not, as long as it doesn't just drastically drop, it's not too big of an issue, because it's 99.2%. And it's going to balance that back out for us. He just dropped 4 ender pearls from that one enderman. And the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to automate filter material from Deep Resonance. This can be done with either charcoal or coal, and then just some gravel and sand, which of course is not an issue for us. So we'll go ahead and get that automated. Now I will say that probably next episode, I know we're starting Deep Resonance right now, but probably next episode we're probably going to work on Applied Energistics, because I do need to start messing with channels and going over those and different color coding and things like that, because we need to start actually moving items like our resonating ore and our filter material and stuff over to this building. And I don't want to use chests for all of that. You'll notice that this is starting to catch back up. It's 99.7%. So it's going to balance out before too long and be back up at 100%. But 100% is, of course, our goal as far as that liquid goes. Now that we have the filter material set up, let's go ahead and order, like, say, 100 of this. Should just take it a second to craft up. That's fine. And then we're going to want to make ourselves a purifier from Deep Resonance. This is just a machine frame, and then some of that filter material. Not a problem. Now basically the way this purifier works is it works similar to the smelter. It's going to take let's probably change that. It's going to take liquid from the I believe it's the top in the purifier's case. It's going to take liquid from the top, and it's going to purify it and then output out the bottom, or to the tank below it, basically. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead, let's set up a tank. Nope. I'll just set that there. I'm going to have to empty it in a second. That's fine. We'll set up a tank there, and then we'll set up our purifier, and then another tank here, which, by the way, if you place these tanks down, even if they don't have anything in them, they are going to stop stacking. So just a heads up on that. And it's also going to require this filter material. So we'll go ahead and throw some of that in there, and it will output, basically it's going to run through that filter material, and it's going to create a byproduct, which is the spent filter material. This can be used to make dense obsidian and dense glass. So we're going to hold on to it for now. Let's go ahead, we'll just grab a drawer, and for right now we'll just set the drawer right here for that spent filter material. And so what we want to do is, let's go ahead, we're going to have our liquid crystal pump out of this, and we're going to say that you provide and you accept. And we're just going to extract that always active. So it's going to take that liquid crystal, and it's going to pump it out into this. And you'll notice that this is now running. It just made some filter material, and it's creating liquid crystal with better purity. Now it's only a 35% purity, but you can get the purity up to about 80%. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just add a couple more tanks like this. So all this filter material, or all this liquid crystal, is basically just put in there together. And so the benefit of this is you'll notice that it's just raising the purity, and it's going to keep raising that purity on this liquid crystal until it reaches about 84%. I think it's 84 to 85% for this liquid crystal is the maximum that it can reach. Unless they've changed it since the last time I've used it. Now you'll notice the quality still at 99.9%. That quality will go back up. That's not really an issue. But if your quality on your liquid crystal, if something happens and it does happen to drop down to like 50% or something, honestly, I would just chuck it and just start, making some new resonating crystal, because 50% is going to take a long time to come back from, in comparison to just losing, like 0.2% or something like that. So now it is going to move through this filter material at a fairly decent rate. It's about one operation for each filter material. So that's one reason I want to get into messing with AE more than we have, because I want to go ahead and have it automatically output resonating ore as well as filter material into these machines and keep this running. Now this purifier doesn't actually require any power, so just having it set up here, that's fine. It's raising that purity. So right now it's 23%. It dropped a little bit because it just moved some more resonating liquid in. But eventually this is going to fill up and it'll all be fine. So the next thing that I want to get is I want to get a valve from Deep Resonance. So there's our valve, and the way this works is it's going to take fluid from an upper tank and output it into a lower tank if it matches a certain condition. So what we're going to do is let's add another tank here, and let's go ahead and bring these out a couple bits here, because all these tanks basically connect into one big multi-block tank. And so then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and set up a filter here, and we're going to say that we want this stuff to get purified, you know, fully purified before it gets pulled out. So we can adjust and say that we want the purity to be 84%. And strength doesn't really matter. We're going to say 10 because 10's the standard, you know. Oops. 84, 10, 10. And we'll go ahead and apply it. And we're not going to worry too much about the maximum millibuckets or anything like that. And we'll go ahead and set up our tanks here. And so basically once this liquid crystal finally reaches an 84% threshold on the purity, it's going to get pulled out by the valve and it's going to get inserted into this bottom tank. That way, it is going to take a little while to build up. Quite a while, honestly. That's why I said we're not going to get this fully set up today, because this is going to take quite a while. I'll probably leave it running overnight, because every time it starts to build up this purity, it's going to throw more liquid in here, and then it's going to drop the purity. And so it's going to take a little while for all of that to get balanced out. Just like our quality should be just about 100% again, but it does take it a minute. Since we haven't talked about it, let's go ahead and talk about the quality, purity, strength, and efficiency, what these actually mean for your crystals and what they actually mean for your power generation. So quality, very, very important that you get that like right at 100%, because it's going to, of course, affect, it's going to be the quality of the crystal, and what it's going to do is in the future processes after this, you know, like the purification, and the once we start getting into enhancing with lasers and things like that, that quality is going to directly affect how effective and the maximum that you can get those numbers up to, the maximum that you're going to be able to purify things, and so on. So don't, you know, quality is something you definitely don't want to get down to like 50% or something, because you're not going to be able to really refine your liquid as much if you do that. Now purity is going to basically, of course, be the purity of the crystal, and what that means is it's going to affect the amount of radiation that it outputs. The higher the purity, the less radiation it's going to be generated. Also, it's going to directly affect the amount of RF that crystal both contains and produces per tick. The strength is how much RF that the crystal contains, because you don't just make one crystal and you're done. Basically, you need to automate it so that your crystals are being generated, they're being put down, they're being used, and then eventually, once all the power's gone out of them, once the strength is down to zero, or the RF capacity is down to zero, that crystal is not going to produce any more power. So the strength is going to affect how much total RF is stored within that crystal. And then lastly, the efficiency is directly your RF per tick. So the higher the efficiency, the more RF per tick that you want. Now, you don't necessarily want efficiency at 100%. Strength, you know, you want to get that as high as you can. But efficiency, you don't necessarily want it as high as you can get it, because if you're not going to be able to utilize that RF per tick, then you may not want to have it, you know, at, say, 10,000 RF per tick, because you're not going to be able to use it. But that's up to you. I mean, as long as you get the stuff automated and set up, it's not, I don't feel like it's that big of an issue if you have extra RF per tick being generated. Now, actually, I don't think we ever found any deep resonance crystals just naturally in the world. You can actually find them, and they will spawn just all over the place, generally underground, but I have seen some that have actually managed to spawn like pretty close to the surface level. And basically that's due to it just being like in a little above ground cave or something like that. So give me a second. Let me fly down and see if I can find any deep resonance crystals around here so I can kind of show you. I'm surprised. I have noticed that quarries don't generally pick them up, at least in my experience. They tend to, I think, break the blocks and then just lose the crystal. At least most of the quarry options. That's why whenever you start running a quarry, you don't really see yourself getting a whole lot of deep resonance crystals. And I think that's the cause of that. Okay, well, I'm not having any luck finding them, but basically just keep in mind that you can actually find those crystals out in the world. But also keep in mind that if you do come across those crystals and you want to use them for power generation, which, like I said, we'll get into actually generating power with this next episode once we have some good crystals and we're happy with the setup and everything. You can use those crystals that you find in the world, but keep in mind that, for one, they're very impure because they're just naturally spawning, and they're not really refined. So they are going to, for the amount of power that they produce a decent amount of radiation. However, at that point, it's such low power output that the radiation's really you're not going to feel the effects of that radiation because they're just not a very strong crystal. And then in addition, their RF Protect and their strength are generally very low, and if you want to grab them for like start of the game power generation, that's fine, but don't expect to really run much using those because they really just don't output a whole lot of power. For some reason, the smelter just locked up, like around 60%, just locked up and stopped producing liquid. I had to break it and replace it in order for it to start running again. I'm going to keep it running, pretty much overnight, because the way I have it set up, I like to have this kind of as like a buffer, and then it just kind of fills out into this valve as it can accept it. And like I said, the next episode, we're probably going to mess a little bit with applied energistics, honestly, and that is because I want to get this stuff automatically moving items around the base and things like that, and get into a little bit more refined applied energistics. And then we'll probably do a little bit with deep resonance as well next episode. So, because the applied energistics stuff really won't take that long to go over. So we may finish refining the liquid next episode, and then we'll actually set up a nice little area to generate power. The power generation will be over in this, the power building, and not in the liquid building. But yeah, so anyways, I hope that helped. That's a lot of the basics. The only thing left is refining it a little bit farther with lasers. That stuff really comes down to personal preference. But we'll get into that stuff next episode. Also, there is a manual that you can make as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. Out here, this deep resonance manual, and there's also some other little things like a radiation monitor and stuff, which we haven't got into radiation because we're not actually generating any power with these right now. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already for more daily videos. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas. Of course, tomorrow is Christmas, so happy Christmas Eve. I'm kind of limited on time these days, like these past couple days, because I've been doing a lot of cooking, getting ready for Christmas, and finalizing all of that. So that's why I didn't get as much built and everything as I intended to. But Christmas is always a busy time. So, but anyways, I hope you guys have a great Christmas, and I hope you guys join me next week, and we'll continue on with setting all this stuff up and getting into deep resonance a bit more. So until then, do take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you guys then.